Hello again, Sleepers Media community. It is me, Eli, from Sleepers Got Talent, and I figured I'd do a little how-to video on how I made this graphic for round 1 of the competition with my 10 other contestants. Before I get into the how-to and why I'm doing it, I did want to address something from my audition video. The jersey that I randomly switched into at the middle of the video because I bumped in another take that I did is this jersey. I hung it up because I realized I don't wear it, and I should. It is a Frankfurt Hot Dogs jersey. That's my high school, and I really like it because we have a unique mascot that no other high school in the country has, and I have a lot of fun with that. So let's get into this. I'm doing this because I really enjoyed the process of making this graphic. I think graphic design is really fun for people who aren't really painters or people who can draw. You know, a lot of people have that artistic, I can make something that people look at. I do theater and film, so like I make things that people watch, but a picture can capture someone's mind and attention so much easier than a video or a stage production, that it's a whole nother art form. And so let's get started with a new file. I go poster. I think that's just a pretty good format for making a graphic. I think going with a poster is generally the way to go, just to have some consistency there. As you can see, I've worked with a ton of random stuff to design different graphics at school. So I start with this background here, and I always start with a gradient because I think a gradient makes for a very dynamic background. The background is something that gets lost for a lot of people, just a solid color. I think a solid color can work, but you want to feel that depth of the image. I think depth is a really good way. I mean, when you taste food, you don't just want one flavor. You want salty and savory. You want sugary. You want sweet and sour. You know, you want that combination. And I think the depth of an image can do that. And that's why the background is so important. And I usually go for a gradient, and then you can delete the background once you place the gradient. But the gradient will not go there if you don't have a background. And then I place a black and white. This will come in later, but you'll see in a minute. And so this, using adjustments, I would also like to mess with this gradient. I did not adjust this gradient. I like to go for a -45 angle where the dark comes down and turns into light towards the bottom. You could go just for a 45, which is coming from the bottom and pushing up to that, from the bottom right corner and pushing up to that left top corner. And this is what this will inevitably turn into. This is using a transparent form of the original Sleepers, the Sleepers logo, and then I just throw it on this background. Right now it's under that black and white, but you can see this. It's slightly opaque. Let me open blending options to show you how I do that. We have this, and I have its opacity at 13. I'm going to have it at 15 maybe. I like 13. I like how it looks. I think I just chose that at random when I first did it, and I like how it looks. I now finished this graphic so you can see it. I move it just around here, and I throw it under that black and white, because I think for a background you don't really need much color. The color can be in the text and what's trying to get your attention, so people don't focus on the background, but they can feel the depth of it. And that's the secret of art, you know. And then I use this basketball texture, because this is a graphic about basketball at the end of the day. It's orange. If we look at the blending options, it is very orange. I mean, look at this. That is like just your average basketball color. And I brought it down to 5% because you want people to see it, but that's not. I mean, if you're paying attention to the background, you almost want them to pay attention to the logo more. But again, it adds more depth, adds more texture. You can almost feel what you're seeing in this graphic. So I put this underneath. It could go underneath both, but it doesn't matter because both are opaque, so you can barely see. You can see both through the other. And then I like the rectangle tool to help build stuff. So I place this rectangle here. I use the fill. This is the Sleepers orange. Right now that isn't popping up, so I will give you a little sneak preview. This is what we end up getting. I get a rectangle very similar to this, and that is how it started. It's under the black and white. That's why it is messing up here. So we have this orange, and I kind of built off of this individual orange rectangle. I let this kind of be the intro bar, bring it high enough. I like that banner kind of thing where like it brings you down. That's what catches your attention. There's still the graphic behind it, and you can still feel the depth of the graphic, and that's something that I really focus on. And then I copied that like a billion times. I'm just kind of building it little by little right now. I'm not really focusing on making it look good. I mean, of course, I'm focusing on making it look good. But I kind of did this, and this is how I started. And then eventually, I erased all of these. I erased all of them because it's all about copying it. And I used this curve here. I don't know where I set the radius. I think I set it at just 10 at first. It's funky, but eventually I was able to get a curve into it, and it turned into this. And so, delete this, and I put it around here, and then made 4 more, filled it out, and it turned into this without all the text. I used different things. I used images that I found on Google. Now, if you're going to make a graphic like this, you should probably check the legality of using these images. A lot of time you can get caught using images that you are not legally allowed to use. And so you have to be careful of that. I wasn't careful with this because I'm not going to profit from this. This is just something that I'm sending in for an audition tape. This isn't business for me. I'm not making money off of this. So I'm just using it to make a demonstration of what I can do. One of the most difficult things for me was choosing a font. I chose Aileron, I think. Yeah, Aileron. It's a slick, slanted. I did use an italic, but like it's a very straight and sharp font, and I can appreciate that, especially for a sports graphic, because sports are kind of like that rough. You think of the Fox Sports logo and stuff, and how their mascot is a giant robot. That the sharp font occupies the same space in my mind as Cletus, the Fox Sports robot. I did change it for these W and L's because I didn't like that sharpness. I want it to be a little more whimsical with W and L. Those bright colors, you don't want to associate that with something like this, because you can see that there, that W is a little bit sharper, and I didn't like that. I had it filled out like that. I've changed this graphic a ton. I've gotten a ton of second opinions, which everyone should do. You shouldn't just put out a graphic. I had multiple mispronunciations. A lot of my initial captions were very wordy, and I trimmed that down a ton. And then I added this logo at the end to just kind of watermark it and say this is Sleepers. If the 2 other logos on here didn't say it enough, I wanted to say this is Sleepers by adding this tiny little logo here, which I moved many times throughout this process. And this is kind of what I came to. I feel like this is a good graphic. It's some of my better work. I liked using the curve tools. I like using transparency and the blending options for opacity and gradients. And you can do all of this. It's just about playing with Photoshop, and you learn kind of the things that you like. And I'm like, this is a graphic that I would like to look at. I like the curves. I like the depth of the image, which I have said a billion times already during this process. But I like the depth. I like the colors. I like the curves and the rectangles. I like all of it. It's very geometric, and I think it looks pretty. But that's just me, and I hope that you guys think it looks pretty too, and move me on to the next round. Thank you.